Oh, shoot. It's an error. Oh. All right. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another Empowered Presence episode. Look, we had a special guest today, baby, and I'm very excited about this one. We have Miss Mia Williams, LinkedIn creator, entrepreneur, community builder. She's just an overall career influencer. Currently, she serves as CEO for the Colors of Her Success, which is the number one resource community for Black women navigating their early stage careers. Mia is a skilled community builder who thrives on helping professionals, brands, and organizations drive impactful change through authentic relationship building. Y'all know I love that. But look, content is key, and we all know that. And storytelling is very, very powerful. But how do we use that to really build that strong brand and those authentic relationships that we just talked about? Mia is going to share with us some part of her story, give us some tips, some strategies, and really give us some insight on how she ended up becoming a LinkedIn top voice. So let's welcome Mia. Hey, girl. Hey.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Now, when I first met you, it was
Mhm.
in my community for resume writers.
Yes, yes,
Doing
yes.
that resume thing, and I think you were working on creating like templates. And
Mhm.
now you ain't doing none of that.
No. Yeah,
So
it's
tell
so
me about that journey.
yeah, at that time, I was very interested in just perfecting my craft as a resume writer because that was an offering of the Colors of Her Success was I really wanted to help people get in the door and craft what I call these six-figure resumes. But after a while, I started to feel like it wasn't really aligned with what I wanted to do and where I wanted to take the brand because after a while, people started only knowing the Colors of Her Success for resume building. And I just felt like it was doing us such a disservice. So I figured out a way to just design them as templates and offer that rather than spending all the time teaching people how to write resumes because as unsexy as they feel for you guys, it's very unsexy for us too. Like we don't always enjoy it. And just because you're good at something doesn't mean that you have to monetize it or pursue it just because you're skilled at
Oh, I love that because let me tell you, baby, I was
it.
highly skilled at the resume thing. I mean, awards, I've opened several books. I monetized it for 13 years and I was like, yo, this is not my jam. And I
Yeah.
love that. And it's important for us on our journeys to really start to recognize what does help us to feel good, right?
Yeah.
What does make us feel fulfilled? What makes us feel like we're making an impact? What makes us feel connected to the
Yeah.
work? And I love what you said about you recognize, like, okay, this is not really the direction I want to go. What were some things that made you recognize, like, let me switch this up?
Hmm. Yeah, I think first was the brand. I wanted people to see us as a community. I wanted us to know
Mm.
us for professional development all around. I started throwing events and getting people out to network and really build authentic relationships. And the more and more I was doing that and trying to take the business in a different direction, the resumes were taking up a lot of time. So
Mm.
as a founder, you really have to be really careful with how you spend your time and where you're spending your time and efforts. And resume building was something that it requires a lot of time. It requires a lot of brain power and energy to really help someone craft a resume that showcases their skills. And I just, after a while, you get burnt out of it. And though I was charging a lot and though I was making money from it, it just stopped feeling worth it because it wasn't bringing me as much joy and wasn't necessarily fully aligned with the brand. It was aligned, but like it wasn't where I was trying to really develop it. Also,
Yeah.
with the rise of AI at that time, I knew AI was coming and I knew that there would be a lot of resources for people to sort of learn how to do their resumes on their own. So I was thinking about sustainability long term as well.
Mm, yes, that's an interesting piece right there. While we're on the top of AI,
Mm-hmm.
I was going to ask you about, what you talk about in terms of building authentic relationships. And when
Mm-hmm.
it comes to AI, I'm seeing, so as a writer, I still write. I write content for my clients to build their personal brands. I write content for a company and contract with, etc. I can spot ChatGPT a
Yeah.
mile away.
Yeah.
And I feel like people are using ChatGPT now to write their comments,
Oh gosh.
to
Yeah.
write their messages. So what are your thoughts around building authentic relationships and what that looks like? And how can we use AI to help build those authentic relationships?
I think it's interesting because I actually really love ChatGPT, but I think people go wrong because they use it as the answer instead of as a resource, right? Like ChatGPT is something that sort of gets you started, but it's up to you to really craft whatever message you're trying to create in a way that feels true to you. Chat doesn't know your voice, and Chat is learning how to mimic people's voices, but it doesn't always get it right. In terms of relationship building, I think that's something AI can't really take away from us. I think that's something that has to always be authentic and always have to deal and always have some sort of component where we are meeting face to face and talking face to face and having connections. I think chat can only go but so far. It's not a person. So when it comes to creating those relationships, you do have to sort of take the AI element out of it. Now, if you want to craft an email of like, how can I get this person for a coffee chat? Fine, that's fine. But you can't shortcut that. You can't shortcut the relationship building process. It's so critical and it's such a skill that people overlook more than anything, that I think it would behoove everybody to know a little bit more about how to work a room, how to connect with people that you don't know, maybe even people you don't necessarily agree with. It's such a skill that's so powerful in your career.
That is a very, very good perspective. I mean, I think networking has this like negative connotation and people hate networking. They get all like, oh, networking. But really, I always say it's just like when you were in school and you was in the cafeteria eating lunch with your friends. That was networking.
Yeah, exactly. No, exactly. That's networking. I think we overthink it. I think I'm an introvert, and I think introverts specifically really struggle with networking. But I think there's a fine line between using introversion as an excuse versus still learning how to network, even though you are a little bit introverted. You still can do it. You just have to do it a little bit differently in ways that feel good to you. So,
Mhm.
when it comes to people not liking networking, I mean, I understand it. I graduated college with 5 internships, and at every single one of them, they would be like, you have to network. And it's like, what does that mean? And then they would force us to go to these networking events where we have to talk to people in the company. And I'm just there like, I don't know what I'm supposed to say. Like, there's just this element of small talk that's really uncomfortable and it feels really forced. And for me, networking shouldn't be forced. It shouldn't be something that like you don't enjoy. In fact, if you're building relationships that you care about, then you will enjoy it and it'll be something you're interested in doing a little bit more.
Love that. Uh, what we're not finna do is gloss over what you said about you graduated with 5 internships. Can
Yeah.
we talk about that? How did you go about doing that? Because I think the people listening would find that an interesting story of how you were able to achieve that, because one internship is hard for a lot of people.
Yeah.
How did you
Yeah.
find
And I think it's so true. I was so intentional back in college. I was just so hungry to get as much experience as possible. So, what I learned very quickly in undergrad was that you have to have experience in order to get experience. And some people learn that like after they graduate or whatever. But I felt like I was intentional about learning those lessons kind of early. So, I knew sophomore year I wanted an internship. And what really gave me a leg up is that I worked at my school's career center all throughout college. So I was helping
it?
people do their resumes. I was helping people get interviews. I was helping people craft their LinkedIn. So I had that skill set, and now it was time for me to apply it. And that's what I did. Once you get that first internship, it's so easy to get other ones because you now have experience. I say the first one is the hardest, but after that, it comes so easily. So, four of them were like corporate internships, but one of them was just like one I did for free on campus, and it still counted as valuable experience. So I think being really intentional about just getting as much experience as you can is really helpful. And then when it came time to apply for jobs, that gave me a leg up because I already had a lot of experience that I can apply to the role.
I love that, because basically what I'm hearing is you started building your brand in your career right
Early.
away.
Yes.
Early.
But I didn't know.
Early.
But that was the thing. I didn't know I was doing that. I was just like, well, I know I need an on-campus job. I know my goal after college is to get a job. So like, why not position myself to like learn how to do that at the career center? So I really was growing up around professional development, but learned very early that I have a knack for making professional development a little bit more appealing to a younger audience. So instead of saying like, you have to know how to do your resume, it's like, no, you need a 6-figure resume so that you can make 6 figures, so that you can get in the room, so that you can live the Black girl luxury lifestyle. I just knew how to make it very relatable to a younger audience. And that is where the Colors of Her Success thrives, because we're able to really make these professional development topics bite-sized and relatable for a younger demographic.
You know what I love about what you're saying? It's about you getting very intimate and knowing your audience. You
Mm-hmm.
you know who your people are, you know how they talk, you know what they care about, you know what their challenges are. And I think that is a very, very important key piece of really building a strong personal brand, right?
Yeah.
Because who are you talking to? Who is your brand for? And so knowing who you're talking to or who you want to help and all of that clearly, as we can see, Exhibit A, is
Yeah.
very powerful. How did you know that that's what you needed to do? Because a lot of people put up a shingle, say I have a service or business, and they don't get clear on that target audience. How did you
Yeah.
kind of know like that's what I need to do?
Yeah. I learned that investing in myself was how I could just learn a little bit more. So I invested in memberships that taught me business, that taught me audiences. I invested in your membership. Like I was just so intentional about learning the things I didn't know. And one of the business memberships I was in taught a lot about mastering your audience, mastering your content. And one of the biggest things that people don't understand about content creation is that if you're making content for everybody, you're making content for no one. Like you have to have a dedicated audience of who you're talking to. Lucky for me, my target audience just so happened to be me. I was my target audience. I'm like, how would I want this to be marketed to myself? What would make me want to pay attention to this? So that was how I was able to identify mine. But at first, it really did feel like, well, it's for everybody. Everybody needs professional development. But once you niche down a lot, it's like, no, you're talking to Black women navigating their entry to mid-level early stage career. I'm not talking to like older mid-level, maybe executive level women. I'm talking to the women who are just starting and just realizing like, okay, I need a little bit more help because I don't know what's going on. Now, that's not to say that people who are not in your target audience won't be attracted to your content, because they can be, but you're not making the content for them. So it's a fine line you kind of have to walk.
Yeah, I love that. I used to try to preach that to my membership Like, get clear on your niche, but it does. A lot of people felt like, well, what about all these other people? They will come too.
They're gonna come. Yeah,
They will come
they'll
as
be
well.
there. They're welcome to the party. You're welcome to come and chat and look and engage. But like I'm specifically talking to this audience.
I love that. So let's talk a little bit about your ability to build a strong community, because I think that is an important piece of building a personal brand that a lot of people just don't even think about,
Yeah.
right? So, how did you go about building such a strong community?
Yeah. It really started with talking to my target audience, but engaging with them frequently. I remember when I first started the Colors of Her Success Instagram, I was like showing up at least 2 to 3 times a week. I was, recording Instagram stories, really putting my face out there and putting myself out there as the trusted source, making myself available as a resource so that there was a level of trust there that they felt like they could ask questions or engage or participate. And for me, when it comes to community, my priority is to give before I ask. So before I sell something, before I try to get them to take action, I want to give you a lot so that you know I'm a trusted resource. And then when I make the ask, they're quicker to jump. So it started on social, but then there was one day that Instagram just completely shut down. And I think that was the moment where everyone realized to have a community only on social media is not safe. Because if social media goes down tomorrow, you have no control. So I started being really intentional about my newsletter and making that my resource of where everyone can know what's going on, be in the loop, get value, and stay in touch with me if they need to, if something were to happen to social. Also, all of this social engagement that you're getting, you can also use that and make it your own engagement. So instead of driving people to social all the time, maybe you drive them to your newsletter. Maybe you drive them to your website and reading an article. Whatever the case may be really intentional about crafting your own sort of community. I took it to the next level this past year by starting an offline community on Geneva, sort of like a new age Slack or Discord or Circles. It's just a platform for you to get people together. And that was really when I learned community building. That was when I learned how to take an audience and make it and build an actual community around them. So some of the things that made this successful was that the community had a lot of rules, right? You can only join once a month. And the reason for that was because if everybody's joining at different times of the month, it's hard for people to really get to know anybody. So I wanted everybody who joined to have at least 1 month to get acclimated with the girls, and then we'll open it up. Everyone had to do an introduction because I was raised, you don't come into anybody's house and you don't speak. Everybody had to introduce themselves. So there was these rules around them. And it sort of turned into what I know now to be a mastermind where we're all sharing experiences, we're all sharing resources, and there's value around sharing your experiences and sharing your skills with a group of people. So some of the things that started to happen was that local chapters started to form. So like, even if I wasn't available to join, the girls would get together in DC, in Charlotte, in Dallas, and they would meet up for happy hours. Some girls went to Afrotech and met up together there. So it was like just watching this community just blossom, but it all started with intentionality. I wanted you to feel like you were a part of something and you weren't just a number.
Wow, I love that. That is so awesome. And you know what's funny about what you said, what I'm hearing is basically you said when you started the community, that's when you learned. You got hashtag do it.
You got to do it. It's so funny. I listened to a podcast this morning and it was called Doing the Thing, right? And it was talking about how we all have something we're trying to do, right? But we often misconstrue what it means to do the thing. So sometimes you'll talk about the thing. Sometimes you'll do admin work around the thing. Sometimes you'll research the thing. All these things that you're doing, but you're not actually doing it. So it's like you have to just put finger to keyboard and just start, and then you'll sort of figure it out as you go.
Love that. That was one of my big messages when I was. It's always a big message of mine because I understand the power of action, right? You sit there, you think like you said, you think about it, you research it, you figure out, you plan it out, and you ain't moving because you're not actually doing anything. So love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So
Analysis paralysis.
yes, exactly. So now I want to talk a little bit more about how you built your personal brand,
Mhm.
particularly on social media, because I
Yeah.
know you had a huge audience on TikTok
Mhm.
and now you had become a LinkedIn top voice. So let's talk a little bit about what that looked like. How did you go about going from I don't know what I'm doing to boom pow flat out? I'm
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah. It starts with having something to say and having somewhere to say it. So for me, my something was professional development tips. It was sharing the progress we're making with the colors of her success. It was posting consistently on a specific platform. For me, my top two were actually LinkedIn and TikTok, where I was seeing the most ROI. Like I'm actually seeing things happen as a result of this. But I don't want to be confused. Like, I don't want people to think that this was something that happened very quickly. I had been posting content that wasn't getting a lot of engagement for a really long time until I realized that actually LinkedIn was paying attention and they were noticing. So, even though my engagement I thought was low, people were still paying attention. When it came to TikTok, that was probably the most uncomfortable. Like, putting yourself out there on video is so vulnerable. Like, it just, you're worried that like your friends are like looking at you, talking about you. But at the end of the day, it wasn't really about how the content was going to be perceived for me. It was about, did I show up and did I do what I said I was going to do? So posting the content consistently after a while started to do really well, but then one video went viral, and then two videos went viral, and then three videos went viral. So people started noticing me a little bit more, which is where the TikTok followers came from, but then also the LinkedIn top voice came from as well, which was a shock to me. I was like, me? Are you guys sure? And so many opportunities have come from that. Like, I remember going to Culture Con for free because I was a LinkedIn creator, and getting invited to the after party because I was a LinkedIn creator. So it was just all of these things that happened because I really found my lane and stuck to it in terms of my personal brand.
I love it. I love that. And you know what? How long did it take? You said it took a while. So how long did it take, would you say, from when you decided, all right, let me start posting about this stuff to when you felt like it actually finally like blew up and gained some traction?
Yeah. 2020, and then I didn't start seeing results until 2022. So
2 years.
it was 2 years of just consistently trying, and it's like, I don't know what this is gonna get me, but I'm gonna just keep going. So I think that's a message to everybody. Like, it takes time, and people, when it comes to personal branding, people like consistency. People like someone who they can rely on to sort of show up. Maybe every post won't hit for that particular audience member, but they still like being a part of it, and they still like watching the journey happen.
Yeah, I love it because, we tend to, I know for me, I'm impatient. I'm
Yeah.
impatient as hell. And a lot of people, we win this microwave thing and we see other people hitting and blowing up and we're like, when is our time? And
Hmm.
so the fact that you had stuck with this thing for 2 years
Yeah.
and look at you now, it's like people do it not even 3 months.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, it's not working.
Yeah.
Forget it.
Yeah, it's the instant gratification. And, the first part about building a first personal brand is like really making sure that's what you want to do, and making sure like this is what I'm trying to put out to the world. Because if you don't like what you're posting about, if you don't feel like your personal brand is true to you, or the content you're posting is true to you, you're going to burn out really quickly because it's not something that's really interested. Also, sometimes people do these things for the wrong reasons. Sometimes people want to monetize their content. Sometimes people want to have the notoriety and the audience and the community, but it's like, they're not able to really provide value. They just want that end result, which sort of makes them burn out a little bit earlier. So it's really a marathon. I know we say that a lot, but it's not something that happens very quickly.
Yeah, I love that. And I love what you just said. Like, you have to kind of do that groundwork first. And
Hmm.
that's why, Empower Presence, the name of the podcast, also the name of my program, where
Hmm.
we go through. And some people go through the first 2 or 3 modules and they realize, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
And just imagine if they would have jumped straight to content and trying, right? It would have been worse off because now you invested all that time trying to do something. You really realized you didn't want to do it before you started. And I
Yeah.
think that's important to really get that clarity and understand like this has, like you said, has to be something true for me. It has to be true to me and what I want and who I want to help. And so doing all of that groundwork and getting crystal clear on, like you said, who your people are, what is your message, where you're going to show up, right? All of those things, knowing those things, you're going to be eons ahead because you're clear and
Yeah.
there's no indecisiveness. There's no trying to like figure out, okay, well, maybe I need to, right? There will be some tweaks along the way, but the overarching message is clear.
Yeah, your personal brand can absolutely change. And I think that's important. Like you may tweak it, change it, and like realize, okay, maybe I kind of want to go in this direction. Like right now, my personal branding isn't so much like helping you get the job. It's more so when you get in that job, here's what you need to know. That's sort of how I'm framing my personal brand, but it's still very much aligned to helping young people navigate their seat at the table. And because I have that level of clarity, even in my full-time job, because I side hustle and work a full-time job, the work that I do at work is very aligned with my brand outside of work because I'm so clear about the personal brand and the message I'm trying to convey, even in my 9 to 5. So they're now giving me work that aligns with the work I do for my business as well.
Love it. I
Yeah.
love that because a lot of people are conflicted, right?
Yeah.
They're in a job or doing work that has nothing to do, or maybe even the opposite of
Yeah.
what they want to be doing, right? I know for me, for example, I was doing that resume stuff for a while. Career coach, career empowerment, climb the ladder, da, da. I don't even believe in climbing that corporate ladder.
Mm.
That's not my world. Like I don't resonate with that. Yet here I am slanging resumes, baby, and I was really good at it, but it wasn't true to me and who I
Yeah.
was. And so that was always kind of like a internal conflict within myself. And it took me a long time to be able to put that aside and really get clear on like what am I about? Right. And
Yeah.
I'm all about encouraging people, making an impact and really helping people to elevate. And it could look like job stuff, but really it's bigger than that. It's beyond that 9 to 5 for me. So I love that message for sure.
I agree. I think I completely agree.
Yeah. So talk to us a little bit about some of the challenges that you faced along this journey. Was there a time when you were like, man, screw this, I don't want to do this no more, or this is so hard, when will it happen? Was there ever a time you wanted to give up? And then
Oh yeah.
what
At least once a month, it's it still happens. And for me, sometimes what I recognize is that there's seasons to walk and there's seasons to run. So some seasons you are going hard in the paint and you're really producing at a high level, but some seasons you just can't give that. And that's okay. Like it's okay if all you can do is walk and you can just make a little bit of progress versus the progress you're used to making. Um, and then sometimes when it got really bad, I would have moments where it's like, I don't want to do the colors of her success anymore. I kind of want to walk away from it. And then I would fake walk away from it. I would like take a week where like, I'm just not thinking about it. Don't ask me. I'm not talking about it. And actually those weeks would be the weeks that I became the most creative and thought of the most ideas and really felt pulled to continue to do the work. And I think that really goes into purpose. Like, I think this is my purpose. I think I found the thing and I know it because it's not me trying to make it happen. It's really something that's like pulling me to it. Like I have to sort
happened?
of explore it. I have to dive deeper into it, even if it makes me uncomfortable. So recently I just realized like, why am I the person who God has tapped to do this? Like, is this really, why me? Like, I don't want to do this, but it just is. And I sort of surrender to that process and I surrender to whatever the season may bring, whether it's walking or running, but I know I'm going to keep going regardless.
Mm, love it. That purpose. Ooh. I know for me, when I was looking to transition out of the resume world, I was like, but what else?
Yeah.
Who am I outside of resumes? Because resumes and Melanie L. Denny was synonymous. It
Yeah.
was that was my entire, not even beyond my brand. It was my full identity. I
Mm,
had immersed myself in that thing so hard that when I was like trying to get out, I had to dig myself out of there. And it
mhm.
took me 4 whole years to actually let it go.
Yeah.
And during that time, I was like, well, what is my purpose? What am I supposed to be doing?
Yeah.
What? And so that whole thing about figuring out your purpose is real.
Yeah. What I like about your journey is that, I think you are the perfect example of it's okay to change your mind. We don't tell ourselves that enough, but like, it's okay to pivot if you need to pivot. Nobody says that you have to do something until you die because you said you were going to do it. Like it's okay to pivot when you feel the time is right, and you will know when the time is right.
That's right. Absolutely. So another thing I wanted to touch on today was the power of storytelling,
Mhm.
because I'm a huge proponent of storytelling.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of stats around, people, our brains are wired for stories. We
Mhm.
remember stories. I think they said 5 different areas of the brain light up when you hear a story
Yeah.
versus just, facts and figures. And so, talk to me a little bit about how storytelling has played a part in you building your personal brand.
Yeah. I read a book called Stories That Stick. It's actually right here. I can show.
Hey,
It is called Stories That Stick by
oh,
Kendra
big
Hall.
one.
And it's actually really small. Honestly,
Oh,
it's a pretty small one, but it goes into storytelling in a way that I've never thought about it. And so after reading that book, I started framing my content from the perspective of a story. So, at most, more specifically, my LinkedIn post, I was so intentional about creating the story. So, when I remember there was a time that LinkedIn sent me a care package, like, thank you for creating the content that you create, right? So, instead of saying, thank you, LinkedIn, for sending me this care package, it was, I told the story of how I wanted to stop posting on LinkedIn because nobody was paying attention to my content, but I kept going anyway, and LinkedIn was actually watching. And that post actually went viral just because of the simple story that I told. So, thinking a little bit deeper about your content and thinking about what is the story I'm trying to convey here. But I use storytelling in almost every aspect of my professional life, whether it is for colors, whether it is for my 9 to 5, and I have a presentation that I have to do. I almost always start with a story because stories are what connect us. It's like the oldest trick in the book. It's what has stayed true since the caveman era. And they would like sit around and tell stories. Like it's just a way of really connecting people, and people get it more versus you just telling them something and being noisy. I think social media is noisy. I think the world is noisy. And the way to really captivate someone is always with the story.
absolutely. I just posted, I think it was yesterday. I went to my kid's school for an event and we went into the second grade classroom and there was an image of like how to retell a story. Like 7 year olds are learning about the principles of storytelling. And
Yeah.
I'm like, hello, guys. That's what we need to be doing. If you don't know how to tell a story, here it is in the simplest terms for
Yeah.
7 year olds to know and understand. And I think the thing about storytelling for me is, like you said, if you have a message, you have to connect it. Once you connect it to an experience, then
Mhm.
that's when people start to recognize themselves in you
Yeah.
and your experience and your story. And that's what really builds the connection, like you said. And I think saying the thing is fine, but that stuff is probably Googleable. Let's be real.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And the story makes it now something Google doesn't have because
Yeah.
it's to you and your experience.
Yeah. I think personal branding is so much of your experience and just being able to share it with people. People my age will or younger people or people who are just getting out of college, they're like, but I don't have anything to teach. I don't have anything to say. And I'm like, you have so much to teach. You have so much to say because you have experience. If you are a college student who's a freshman in college, you then have stories you could tell a senior in high school about how to navigate college. And the same is true for at any phase of your life. You now have learned, you've gone through it. How can you sort of teach it to the next person? If that's what your content is driven towards, if you are looking to teach. But some people, maybe their like content strategy is humor. Maybe they're like, it could be whatever it is, but just make sure you're able to capitalize on your own experience to sort of tell that story and really captivate an audience.
Yes, I love that. And you know what else I think people struggle with, and I struggle with this too. How do you pick what stories to tell? How do
Yeah.
you know, okay, this is a good one for my audience versus I'm just telling random stories that don't no one can
Mhm.
relate to or connect with? Is there something that you use or some way in which you decide, all right, this is a good story, or this is maybe not so great of a story?
It's so funny because it depends on whatever the message you're trying to convey. Like whatever your message is, what is the story behind it? And sometimes we overthink it. Like if you're struggling with a post and it's like, let's say you've been posting content for a year now and you're like, I just have no idea what to post. Tell a story about that. Like it kind of just comes naturally. It's hard to say, but I think you sort of know what the story is that you're trying to tell, and it takes practice. Like sometimes you'll be able to tell when a story isn't that relevant, but other times you can tell like, oh, this is gonna hit. Like I love this. This would interest me. So I think just going based off of like what is the message I'm trying to convey and who am I trying to convey it to will help you be able to identify the best stories you want to tell.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree with that. I know for me, when I was building the resume community, I was telling stories about my business struggles.
Hmm.
And y'all was like, oh my God, that's me. Oh my goodness, that's me. Because we had the same struggles, but I had overcome mine.
Yeah.
Right. And so that I think was the key to you guys, the community trusting, like, oh, Mel got the sauce because she came from where I'm at now. And here, look at her now. Like, she can help me get where she is. So I
Yeah.
think really figuring out what are the same or similar situations. But first, you got to know who your audience is, right?
Hmm.
Know what are they struggling with? Have I struggled with that? I sure have. But let me tell them about that. I think
Yeah.
that's a good way to kind of figure out which stories would probably hit.
I agree. I agree. It's probably one of the more important soft skills to learn. I think most companies don't know how to do it. But stories drive results. Like in the book, Stories That Stick, there's so many examples of how actually it's a story that will convert people into customers and make people want to keep buying from you.
Yeah, love it, love it, love it. So tell us about your community. Tell us about Colors of Her Success. What is it all about? What are some of the benefits that people would get if they join? I think
Mhm.
you mentioned something about relaunching. Like, talk to us a little bit about what you got going on with that.
Yeah. So the Colors of Her Success is a resource community for Black women navigating their early stage career. I think by the time you're about 1 to 2 years in, you sort of can start to realize, like, okay, something's not right in corporate America. Like, we have different barriers than other people have. So it's really important to be able to find a space that is full of people who get it, who understand, and who are providing the tips to sort of get to the next level. This summer, well, because I've been running this platform for 5 years, what I've been doing is a lot of social listening, right? I'm hearing the same problems. I'm making a career pivot and I don't know how to move into a new industry. I don't know how to network. I don't know how to find support in my full-time job, and I'm trying to get promoted, and I keep getting passed up. The same stories just keep running true. And I think now we're starting to see the DEI landscape changing, right? That whole Black empowerment movement that we had back in 2020, that has come and gone. But the story for Black women in corporate just hasn't changed. And I think we need hands-on support. So this summer we'll actually be launching a private membership community designed to help next gen leaders. So the women who feel like they are on the track to leadership in their early stage career, we're looking to help you accelerate and give you a private space to sort of learn how to get to the next level. And it's really designed for people at 3 pivotal career points, right? Either you're job searching and you're trying to find a new job, maybe you're in your company but you want to figure out how to get promoted, or maybe you're looking to make a career pivot. This is the group for you. It's exclusive. It is 3 months, so one cohort can last for 3 months, and then after that you can either stay if you want to, but you can also go. Our goal isn't really to keep your money and keep you here. It's really to give you what you need so that you can get to the next level and go be great. So that is launching this summer, and I encourage everybody who is interested, or maybe you know someone who is interested in a program like that, sign up for the newsletter so you can know or be the first to know when the wait list launch and when we are bringing it to life. But it is something that feels so aligned and feels like there is a need for it at this time.
Ooh, love that. I think the state of Black women in corporate right now, I think we're all starting to recognize what's going on and wake up.
We're struggling. I mean, when you see people like Dr. Candia Bailey committing suicide because of bullying, I think that was an extreme example, but it is so real of how Black women get into these leadership positions and then had to deal with so much harsh trauma in order to like make it through. And it's like we work our butts off to get there, but then there's like systematic barriers that are in the way. And I'm not here to change the system. I think that's going to take time. But in the meantime, how can we give our girls the support that they need if they're not getting it at their company today?
Oh my God, we have a very similar approach to that. Mm-hmm. My approach is about authenticity, right? Yeah. Being able to show up at work as who you are. And my vision is just imagine a world where Black women could be who they are all the time at work.
Yeah.
What would that look like? Right. And so I'm saying DEI, yeah. They need to get it together. In the meantime, right? What are we doing to protect our peace and to be able to stay true to who we are so we can show up fully and really impact the world the way in which we want or need? Yeah. Right. I love that.
Thank you. Yeah. And I totally agree. I think so much of professionalism that we've been taught, at least, has been rooted in whiteness. So it's like, if that's the structure that has been placed, where does the Black woman fit in? Because we come with our own sauce, our own flavor, our own ideas. And it's like, oftentimes we feel like we don't fit. We often are the onlys in many rooms that we are in. And ultimately, like after a while, our spirit starts to get broken, right? Black women on predominantly white teams are more likely to be marked as low performer. And we are the only demographic group whose career trajectory can be impacted by who makes up our team. So it's really real out here, and we need a way to have support and community and be able to get the tools, sort of like a cheat code of how can we navigate. And for me, it's so important to sort of get this the next wave of leaders is my audience. So it's like, how can we sort of invest in them now so that maybe they don't have to have it as hard as the generation who came before us? So really trying to bridge that gap of like, let's have them who have made it to the top teach us. So we are looking for masterclass hosts. We are looking for career coaches. We are looking for women who are really down for the cause and looking to help elevate the next generation as we're on our come up.
Absolutely. But also remember, the folks that have made it, some of them are miserable.
Oh my goodness.
Some of them are like, the people that I talk to are like, yo, I can't keep this up, right? The executives, directors, the VPs are like, I put on a whole character and I'm tired of fronting at work, and so I am working on some things as well. So we need to talk offline. But I love that message, and I feel like it's so needed. Yeah, it is so needed. So listen, folks, if you can hear Mia's voice today, get on the newsletter. Get on the newsletter. so you can get a part of this movement, because it's not just a community, it's a movement for
Mm-hmm.
us.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
being who you are and for showing up for us and for just spending, this last few minutes with me chatting. Um, Anything else you want to say? What do you want to leave with your audience today?
Yeah, it's a good question. I want to tell you guys to keep moving, keep moving no matter what. Even if it's a little bit of progress, it's still progress. Don't be so hard on yourselves. Give yourselves grace, but also challenge yourselves to be able to do the things you want to do and say you want to do. So don't be afraid to do the thing.
Do the thing. Hashtag do it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mia. It's been a pleasure. I have enjoyed this conversation today. And so, again, if you're interested in the colors of her success, get on the newsletter, get in the know when she launches, be the first to know so you can get up in there and really change the trajectory of your career.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. All right. So, I'll talk to you guys next time. Happy self marketing.